Yeah. I'm not a hunter. They are really good at kiting, um, and very survivable. So you have a lot of options to yourself. Just be very resourceful. Um, so, how are you enjoying Classic?
I need to get closer. I can't cast that yet. That's still really.
Oh, yeah, I'm not a. Yes. So that is the hard part about learning Hunter. That is why Hunter is very, very like in groups, in tight situations. You have to have a proper pet control. You see this in retail all the time too. Hunters will just like play their, um, they'll play their hunter like any other character. Like it's their, the pet is an extension of yourself, and especially if you're playing like Beastmaster in retail, your pet damage is like just your pet auto attacks are like 20% of your overall DPS as a hunter. And you need to keep that in mind that having your pet hit the proper target at the proper time is equally as important as what you're doing with your other character. UI is very important on this.
I can't cast that yet.
Keybinds are spells. Yes, keybinds. Keybinds UI, they go hand in hand. So definitely work those issues out. Yeah. So, like, if you want, um, it's definitely good to play in non-hardcore settings and take risks. And the reason why is because you'll if you don't take those risks and die, and be able to come back, um, you'll constantly never know the min max of your character, basically, unless you just say YOLO, you know, and just go for it. Which sometimes YOLO is the best option here. Even if you die, sometimes going YOLO is the best option for the group. Not only just survival, but to clear the content of whatever you're doing. So, but the point is why a lot of these sweats, are really really good at their classes is because they've min maxed their character. They know exactly how this fight is going to turn out, and they know, like for me, I know there's certain mobs that if they resist two of my spells, I need to run because the probability of them getting me below 5% health is very high, and I don't want to play that threshold game. You know, like we want to keep health above like 20%, kind of thing. We don't want to play the game where, but you also have to acknowledge that your health pool is a resource as well. So that's a big thing. Like, you have to play with your resource. It's just anything that's going to take me that low, and especially as a mage, I don't want. So hunters can do amazing things. Mages can do amazing things, but the problem with them is there's resistances, and hunters don't typically get resist. They just do less damage.
I need to get closer.
Yeah, and you should. Your hand, you know, but that's also a feel game. That's why I say this game is a lot like golf. Is you have to be able to feel when you're in danger and know when you're not. So, and that just takes repetition, and you'll never get that repetition in hardcore. No. Hunter is, I would say, play something more straightforward. And I say that there's two things. If you've played an MMO before, okay, then you kind of understand UI, you understand keybinds. Even though you might not be used to them, but you understand the concept. You understand how to set up a character properly, and to play it to min max yourself. Not just with button pressing, just the physical aspect and getting information into your onto your screen so you can react to it, which is 90% of this game. So why is a first time player, and a lot of first time players, they make this mistake. They play Hunter because they're like, oh, that's cool. It's also, thank you for the follow. They're like, so it looks really cool. They fall into the Hunter trap. Okay, and that's why hunters have traps, because it's a trap. Because a lot of first time players play Hunter, they level it to 60 or whatever, and then they realize, oh, this is like playing two characters at once. Well, I can barely play one character at once. So, thanks for that. And then they basically forget about the game for a while, and then what they'll do is they will then roll another character and be like, why didn't I do this earlier? But they are exponentially better at the game already. So they're so used to playing two characters with the hunter and the pet and having to deal with all that stuff, that when they go back to play a warrior, when they go back to play a rogue, so well, you are now. Right. So that's the running crowd around here, is we're all fart squirrels. So but so okay, considered easiest for a new. Well, do you like this is the question. Warlock has the same problems as Hunter. So if you're good at Hunter, you'll be good at Warlock in a lot of ways. Okay? Except you'll have to manage some more resources with Warlock. Warlock is a little bit more macro heavy, which is a lot to say. But Hunter is equally hard as Warlock. If you want the easy route, I'd go Warrior. If you want more competitive play and less tanking, like if you want to tank and get into groups quickly, be a Warrior and learn how to tank. If you want to play something very complex to kind of push everything, which I don't necessarily recommend, if you have a really good micro, play a Druid, because they need to make split-second decisions a lot of the times. Like, at one point in the fight, you'll be tanking, at another point in the fight, you'll heal yourself. You might even go into cat form. Like, but it's a lot of button pressing for one thing, but the utility that if you can handle that amount of fight, Druid is where you want to be. Right. Straightforward fighting. Like, when you see that, but the thing is, a warrior is all in typically. Warrior goes in, and warrior, creature die, or the warrior goes down, and so it's you have to play those odds too, and you're a tank, so you constantly have to have that feeling of I need the healer kind of thing, and so you have that. Priests can be very tanky. But they have a weird way of going about their damage a little bit. So it really depends on whether you want to play something more straightforward on the range scale, or if you want to go straightforward on the melee scale. I think everyone should tank at some point. I think everybody, because tanking is very straightforward. It's not hard. Even warrior DPS is not super, like, it's not like super complex. So if you leveled a warrior to like 20 and you like that, then you can be like, okay, I'll stick with the warrior, or I like melee and I'm going to go for like a rogue or something like that to have something a little bit different to see what it can do. But the big thing about rogue is you're squishier, so you have to worry about positioning more, you know. So but you also have cool tools like cloak, and you can, you know, you can go invisible, and there's just a bunch of stuff you can do. And that's why, but rogues are very specialized, you know. They require different skill sets. So I would start with a warrior, see how you like that, and then go from there. So, because it's the best in the game for a reason, in all aspects. So, except for AoE damage. So, AoE damage is clearly like a mage thing, or other classes. If you want to play kite, like hunters, if you want to be able to kill most mobs, but just get used to doing this all the time. This you'll do that 90% of the time. You'll shoot, and then you'll just kite things until they die, which is annoying. It's not how I want to play the game, but that's me personally. So you have to choose how you want to play the game, and then does your style line up with what the game needs and how it's engineered? Because at some point you have to kind of say, okay, well this game is engineered for warriors to be tanks. Like paladins aren't tanks. Paladins don't even have a taunt. Like it was clearly that they didn't want. They gave the ability to them, but they're like, oh, we're gonna forget the taunt. So, yeah. Wait. It was really hard playing Hunter. Different stuff. Just try it. Like what I'm saying is, just roll a warrior, and notice how straightforward this is. You know, and once you do that, you'll start seeing differences immediately. You'll feel the differences immediately, and then you'll start to kind of see why warrior's strong and why it's not strong. All at once. Trying to, like, I guess so. Let me. You mean my global cooldowns? Here, let me see if I know what you're talking about. Okay, so there's two cooldowns. There's the cooldown, there's internal cooldowns, and then there's a global cooldown. So global cooldowns means I can't do anything else that a global cooldown for like whatever that tick is. But then the internal cooldown is like if I do this berserking right here, this is a 3-minute cooldown internal. I can't use this ability for 3 minutes. But there's certain things like if I do my wand, like an auto attack for a hunter, then everything will go. So what we call this is clipping. Okay, so I'm channeling this spell, and then there, see, that's a global, and then here. So what you do is you clip. So at the end, I can hit fireball again before this cast is there, and it will start casting again. So you can do that as a caster. You can also do it as a like other character, you can clip your auto attack, okay? Or I can clip my spell for a watch. So I'll fireball this guy. Well, I'm going to frostbolt, then firebolt, and then I'm going to hit my wand. But I'm going to hit my wand to auto attack before my spell is done. Okay. So here. So, and then click. And now I go right to my wand. Okay. But I did that because the game, what the game does is it remembers your finger presses and your button pushes. It remembers that. So what it does is it's like, oh, well, the next spell is going to be the wand. And but it's only going to start when the global cooldown comes up. So what I can do is I can maximize my efficiency that the cast bar will go across. It'll go across. And then before it's done, we'll hit the wand. And then as soon as that cast is done, and then you waste no time. So basically you get more efficiency. So this game is about efficiency. It's about resource allocation, resource management, and efficiency. So for mages, it's all about mana, like controlling your mana, basically. Controlling your health is a resource. That's why I'm saying that your health is a resource. Well, your mana is also a resource. So, but also your global cooldowns are a resource. Your clipping is a resource. That's kind of what I'm saying. Is like being able to stack those abilities so they go off without any lag time there will make you more put more damage on the creature you're trying to do. But he's also going mage. He's always crying about his mana. Yeah, basically. Until you get later and get a lot of spirit, so you just naturally do it. And there's also a talent here, right here, that you regenerate like 15% more during combat. That's a big deal too. So. So, and also, if you're running out of mana, you should use your wand more. Especially if you think, if you're in danger. So, okay. So it like, there's a balance between being in danger and wanting to kill this thing quickly because the tank is taking too much damage. But there's also, if I'm using so much mana that I know the next pull is happening, or I can see this patrol coming up, what I'm going to do is not kill this guy so quickly, because that's going to take a lot of mana. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the guy with a wand strike until he dies, okay? And the reason why you would do that is because now you have multiple things going on. You can hedge your bets that this patrol is going to come in and do something. But you can also, you have backups. Like, when you get higher level, you have mana gate, okay? You can just give yourself more mana. But in a real dire situation, you would have, if you would save a lot of your mana, like say I'm at half mana right now, I could fire blast this guy, or I could just hit him twice with a wand. Okay, but the fire blast is going to take, how much mana does my fire blast do? It does 115 mana. Okay, so I can use that 115 mana, or I can wand him for free. So, but now the difference is do I have half mana or 30% mana? You know. So you have to constantly think about your resources that you have, and you got to look at like evocation, things like that. From a mage point of view, it makes a lot of sense. But from warlock, like every single every single class has their own little niche way of dealing with resources. Okay? And you have to learn that. So, Hunter's just really good because you can auto attack most things, and you just shoot it. You just shoot things down.
I can't cast that yet.
So, Mage, and then leveling solo is different than leveling with other people. You know, with a group. So, you have to keep everything. Everything is managed, and that's what this game really is about. Is managing all that stuff. And in retail, it's managing a lot more, and everything's faster, basically. But the one thing is, this is why Classic is so frustrating, because the objective is so simple. The objective is so simple and so laid out in front of you that, oh, anyone can do that. I know what I need to do, now do it. Well, the thing is, you didn't. There's things that cut you off guard that change the equation to the problem completely. Like that patrol coming through. Or maybe he resisted your frostbolt, so he ran to you quickly. What are you going to do? What are you going to do if that doesn't work? That is why Classic is hard, because something goes wrong, something goes unexpectedly, and what happens is, how do you react? Are you calm, cool, and collected? Which, you know, most people are. If you play the game for a long time, you're calm, cool, collected. Even though you're like, oh, I gotta hit these buttons in this right order. So this is where playing retail comes in handy, is because you're used to that stress. So you come back to Classic, and it's like, okay, well, I just, you know, I gotta hit these buttons in the right order, and if I do that, this thing will probably go down. So yeah, the problem is that everyone learns slow at their own pace. And the thing is, if you have someone else to mentor you through this process, their growing pains are still there, but they're less. But once you get to that point of seeing your mistakes, then you're like, well, why did I ever do that in the first place? Well, that was dumb, you know? Or that makes so much sense. I don't know why I just didn't walk into it. Because this game is very complex, but it's so simple. So. Well, that's the other thing, is Warrior is so simple that how can you screw it up, you know? So as long as you understand kind of rotation, what you're doing, you know, and maybe you have something more major going on that you don't understand something quite conceptually. I find that a lot too with people. Oh, you played for a day? Oh, so you're okay. You're okay. When you said I just started playing, I'm thinking like a month, you know, 2 months, you know, maybe like 6 months. I wasn't thinking that you were day one. Okay, well, my approach to a day one player much different than a 6-month player. Okay. I'm 14 hours into it. I don't think this hunter's going to work out. How do I be good at this game? 14 hours into it. Well, the fact... Okay. 6 months in, like, if you gave me a month into it or something like that, like, I understand you devoted some time into it. Now you're 14 hours into it. And the question is, have you ever played an MMO before? Okay, that's your next question that comes up. And if the answer is no, then we have to start from like scratch kind of thing. And Warrior never played. Okay, yeah. So that's where you really have to get into it, and you start with basics, and you fell into the hunter trap. Everybody's like, "Oh, look, he has a pet. Oh, that's cool. Or, it just makes sense to be like, we're hunter-gatherers as humans. And we're like, I want to do this. What they don't realize is you're playing two characters at once. And if you're not really good at pressing buttons through other games, maybe, but even this game, maybe you come from retail and you're good at, you understand that hitting buttons is very important, how to do that. You just don't want to fall in those traps, and a lot of people do. A lot of people also, they do that with Warlock, and they'll sit there and they'll not macro. They won't micro their demon correctly on their Warlock, and they wonder why stuff isn't happening and why Warlock is good. And they're like, oh well, this stinks and stuff like that. No, it's just you have to hit more buttons on these characters to get their utilization, and Warrior streamlines that. So because you have, it streamlines it because it's conceptually easier than a hunter. So it's conceptually easier than a warlock, and the more you play a warrior, you will get better, but you'll get better in certain ways. You'll understand, yeah, if you ever tank, you'll understand how squishy you are, and be able to do that. If you just stay warrior DPS, which is fine, you'll understand what a warrior can take. But then if you play a rogue, and then you take the same hit, and you realize that on the warrior it took 25% of your health, versus a rogue it took half your health, you start to understand that I need to play a little safer. I need to worry about my positioning and things like that more, because this warrior can tank some things. He can take some hits because they wear mail and then plate eventually, to where a rogue is a leather wearer with very minimal heals. So and then you start getting into like class specific things. So I recommend a warrior for starting out, just to get the feel of it, and then once you get like level 10, then you start to get into what the warrior can and can't do. Once you get to level 15, you'll start to understand. Hardcore might not be the place for you right now. You might even want to level that warrior on just a regular classic server, and then be able to go through the growing pains, because you'll hinder your learning, and that's what a lot of people do here is they hinder themselves, and they're kind of like, if I die once, if I make one mistake, I have to start at the beginning, and that's not good. It's not a good feeling. You shouldn't play like that. You should play, the game should play, there's certain times that you YOLO and you play aggressive, but there's a lot of times you play defensive. It just depends on the situation, but it's recognizing the situation that's important. The thing is, it's a new player. You've never been in those situations, so you don't know. So you're just like, which is the fun in it, but hardcore takes the fun out of that, because if you just spent 6 hours getting this level up to 15, okay, and you die, now you have to start from square one again, and then you have to go another 6 hours to get back where you were, which makes you better for those first 15 levels, but the game is more than that, So I recommend hardcore after you've leveled something to max level. So that's kind of what I'm saying in a nutshell here.
That's still recharging.
Right. It's because you don't fully conceptualize what's going on yet, or how to control your pet, or how to control your character even. You're so new that these things are foreign to you, and that's okay. So I think right, but I think you just need to learn. Like, you need to give yourself a space to learn, you know. And by not giving yourself that space and going hardcore, like you watching me play this, like I have a lot of time invested in this. Like I made so many mistakes the first time I played this. So
I can't cast that yet. That spell isn't ready yet.
so and if I wasn't able to make those mistakes, I would never be the player I am today. And that goes for every game that I've ever played, you know. So in hardcore hardcore exaggerates that. It exaggerates it to a point that, you know, you want to 20 years. A good 20 years. I played in Burning Crusade. That's when I started. So like, but I played a little classic, but I didn't really get into it until Burning Crusade. So
I want to get closer.
So the thing is, my growing pains were 20 years ago. Like I don't have to worry about this game conceptually, and players today miss that. They don't, especially, and that's why I ask if yeah, I offer coaching, things like that. So for classic and retail, like I can help you understand this game on a like a grandioso level. And oops.
That spell isn't
Because a lot of these
That still
a lot of the problems new players have is they don't understand the game on a deeper level, so conceptually. So I teach concepts so that apply to WoW, basically. So and I see results. People, I've been coaching one guy. He's playing for 6 months, and he came to me, and I this was retail. Okay, this isn't classic, but he was doing 800, 700,000 DPS, and I got him up to 1.1 million within 2 weeks. Like it was more like a month. We had like 4 or 5 sessions in the month. So basically I made him a 30% better player than what he was before I met him. And those same concepts translate to classic. Okay, this isn't any different conceptually. That's why I teach concepts, because player skill can only be capped at so much. But if you learn the concepts, then you can apply it to any game, because there's a lot of games like this. So
That's still recharging.
but yeah, I mean, there's some people that have been playing so long that they understand the game. They just don't know how to. If you talk to them, they won't say it they won't explain it like that to them or to me. Like I'll ask them a question, they won't know how to answer it technically, and what happens is I'll explain it this way, and they're like, "Well, we're talking about the same thing." And the people, they understand the concept because they know what I'm talking about. They just have never thought of it like that. So
Isn't ready
Right. Well, I get that a lot, man. So everybody had, like, I don't know everything about Classic. I've been away from
That's
Classic
still
for so
recharge
long.
in.
I think we all were. But there are some things about Classic that I um, clearly remember. Like, and there's a lot of things that um, they are exponential in the scaling between Classic and retail. The concepts are the same. It's just in retail it comes across differently than in classic. One, the numbers are bigger, so you have to just deal with kind of massive computing, because here you're critting for 180 damage. You know, you're doing, you know, your level 1 fireball does 20 damage. Cool. Level 1 fireball, or like the same equivalent fireball as a mage is doing like 300,000, you know, damage in retail, which it means not, the numbers don't really mean much, but equivalently they're so different. So because the game is relatively different in how that's being applied, but the concepts are the same. So.
Cast that yet.
So yeah, as a newer player, I say kind of start with a warrior, start with something more easier to play, and then once you level that warrior up to 60 or even 20, then then maybe play a different character to see what's kind of going on.
That's still recharge in.
So I think that's a good place to start. I, you know,
Cast that.
it's a good place to start, and um, you'll get instant feedback. So stay away from hardcore for now. You don't need hardcore in your life. It'll bring nothing. It will bring nothing to you but frustration, and more questions than answers. Because at least in a regular server, you can come back to and try it again. Like, well, that didn't work. So how can I do this with what I have?
I'm out of
So
range. That spell isn't ready yet. That's still recharging. That spell isn't ready yet.
Raptor. Right. So again, that's what I mean by pressing buttons correctly. If I sit here and I press the one twice, see? If I press it 3 times, like I just did there, then I get a 1 strike. But if I do it twice real quick, I won't. So it's but if I hit it once, then there. So you have to have muscle control. You have to have muscle memory. These things are important when playing this game, or in games in general, and that's why professionals, people that play this stuff for a long time, that's why it looks so smooth. because they've done it. Like you've watched boxing before, and it looks so easy, and they're just doing it. But they've practiced this for thousands of hours, you know, hundreds of hours at minimum, and it just looks so easy. It's so fluid, so just, and it looks so nice. So, you know, it's very similar to video games, except for you're pressing key button, like keybinds and things like that, and that's okay. So, but it takes time. So, it takes a lot of time.
That's still recharging.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. You know, you're new to the game. You're going to make mistakes. The problem with hardcore is your mistakes turn you into like starting over, and that's just not good for learning. Yeah, you can do that as well. You know, binding things to your mouse is fine. You just have to come up with your own kind of system and work. The other thing is, if your keybinds don't work for you and fail during a fight, what do you want to do? You know, like you would die, and then then you'd have to start a brand new character with 2 abilities where you had 5 abilities or 10 abilities earlier. So, like, to give you an idea, I have 14. I have like 14 individual macros on my retail paladin. Okay, 14. And that's quite a bit. And then on top of that, I probably have 30 to 40 sequence of buttons that I hit specifically for retail, to where this is much more simplified. I think you're heading on the right direction of thinking, though, to be able to make it easier for you to do things. Right. Well, Warrior will help that a little bit. Warrior, it's more straightforward, man. It's much straightforward. Much more straightforward. Because Hunter is just complex. It's too complex for newer players. Most newer players. There are some people that can, but for the most part, I recommend it against it. So.
That's still recharging.
Right, but that's the point, is if your friend is new, or if your friend isn't, you guys shouldn't probably be on hardcore servers. You should probably just be on a normal server playing it. And I know it's like, it's one of those things where you're like, I want to play the best and be the best. Well, level a character, spend 100 hours leveling a character to 60 first, or however long it takes you, and then come back after you've done that and done the warrior progression, and go back to hardcore and then do it again. Like, it's much easier, and it's a way better game experience, I promise you. Right. So, hardcore is, if you want the hardcore experience and you want to keep doing that and grinding it out, you can. Like, I'm not saying that you can't do this. There's a place for everything. What I'm saying is, if you die at the same point every single time because you don't know what you're doing wrong, you'll never be able to fix those mistakes in a hardcore environment. you know, or you'll never experience them in the beginning, which is even worse in my opinion, because no player is perfect here. Because and you're not perfect because of the RNG aspect of this game. It will like, you know, things will not like that resist right there. You know? So. Right. You just shouldn't be playing hardcore right now. That's really what it comes down to. So, and once you get that, you know, once you're able to level a character freely and die and be able to come back, there's nothing wrong with leveling a character.
Health warning.
Like me. Probably just gonna run away.
Health warning.
So, I have a choice right here. I can stay and fight that. If this was if this was just a normal server,
Health warning.
I'd sit there and fight that because I can probably kill him. Really can.
Health warning.
But instead, I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna run away because it's not worth it. I'm already at 25% health. But if I knew I could just go to the graveyard and come right back, then I wouldn't do that. I'd play the game differently, you know? Right. Oh boy. And get that guy out. So yeah, like I said, if you guys are looking for, yeah, I know what you mean by like you playing the same. Like if you die and then you have to play the same content again, that gets boring. And there's so much more to this game. Don't play hardcore. Like enjoy the game. And then if you level a character to 60 and you do some stuff, and you're going to learn a lot along the way. If you do that, then come back to hardcore after you do it. So just do it once. It's so much easier. So because one screw up, one misclick of a button here, and it might not even be your fault. You might just, you know, it happened. So it's just a different game, different parameters. But yeah, I do offer coaching if you guys want coaching and stuff like that. Like,
I've been expecting you.
so it's not free.
May the eternal sun
I
shine.
can't help you conceptually with a lot of things. So. Right. So,
We shall meet.
and you're so new that these general concepts are more important than pressing buttons in the right order at this point, because the button pressing comes along after doing it for a long time. You have 14 hours into this, you know. So, but to be a better player, you have to kind of get into it a little bit and understand things, and along the way you can understand the lore behind it and really enjoy the storyline behind it. See, that's the other thing about hardcore, is if you die, you have to start the story over again too. Okay? A lot of the World of Warcraft experience is strictly just the storylines, the characters involved. What happened, like, so. Right, I understand.
Walk
So,
with Mother.
I definitely understand. Yeah. So, you know, and I don't mind having a conversation or two. Like, I don't know. I don't really have a. It depends. It depends what you talk about, kind of thing. It depends, uh, retail or classic. You know, there's some things that are just universal, and I don't mind talking about WoW. You know, like button pressing and UI setup. Like these things are, but to actually go in and fix these things, that's when I'm like, I should probably, like get something. Um, but I typically work it out with the individual. So, um, in a retail setting, you know, gold's, you know, so you're paying for the experience. It's not like a lot, you know. But, you know, I typically work it out with people, whatever, because there's a lot of people that, you know, have never done coaching. They don't know if they're going to get anything out of it. And, um, my thing is they get coaching and they're immediately better at the game, and that, like, and I've seen it multiple times. So, well, you should, and I would, urge you to reconsider it, because, um, just I can help you, and I know I can help you. But play a month on a regular server, and we can, kind of go through things and kind of make you a better WoW player. So, and like I said, I don't mind helping out a little bit. So, but, you know, if I'm gonna spend it, it depends on how much time I'm looking into it, and if I'm looking into specifically you. That's really where the coaching comes in. Like these broader ideas of the game, I don't mind discussing. But, you know, to look into what you're doing, you know, and um, that's where the coaching comes involved. That's where it's tedious on my end, because I have to start. I have to ask questions. Like there's a bunch of things I have to do to get to that level to understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. So. but but yeah, like, and one of those broader concepts is don't play hunter as a new player. Don't play hunter, don't play warlock as a new player. That's pretty much my early advice, to people. Um, yep. Well, and just by leveling a warrior, um, just by leveling a warrior, you're going to understand some concepts that are different than a hunter, and you'll understand the difference between what a hunter is doing versus a warrior, what they're doing, and that's so, and that's important. That's important to
I've been
distinguish between the two.
expecting you.
Um, so, especially if you want to improve on this game. But also, like I said, is there's another part of this game about the lore and the storytelling about this game that is very important. So,
May the eternal sun shine upon you.
oh no, I'm walking the plank. Oh no, ah.
What brings you here?
Fun little quest.
Going.
Easy experience. That's what I say.